Hey everyone, it's Nikki. Welcome if you're new here and welcome back if you're returning. Today is week 8 of my I Love Christmas series. I can't believe we're already here and I have just one more DIY for you next week and that is it for the season. But let's jump right into what I have for you today. I get a lot of inspiration on Instagram, and this idea came from Hot Pink Pineapples. I'll try to remember to link her down below. And so I went on ChatGPT. It gave me this design of like a Bethlehem star, and this is the same design that she used. So I cut it out, and then I took this envelope. That's what I'm tracing it onto now. It's essentially like a cereal box consistency, maybe a little harder. And so I started out by cutting 4 of them, and then I went back in and I ended up cutting 4 more. So these are supposed to be vintage style ornaments, and I really love the ones that she made. And so I put my own twist on these. And so as you can see, I just used my scissors and trimmed it out so it's nice and neat and like the perfect shape of a star. And these are going to be 2-sided, so we're going to decorate both sides. That way I can use them year after year and it just looks more high-end that way, right? All right, glitter's so messy, y'all know. So I took out a few bowls, mixed some silver with gold, and then I mixed some pretty blue with some silver as well. And I also added in like a little sprinkle of some iridescent glitter. And for all the folks that don't like glitter, I get it. It's very messy. And I think I did pretty good by not creating a huge mess making these. And then when I'm all done, I seal everything in with some Mod Podge. And I kept doing like a test, seeing if I was getting any on my fingers. And Mod Podge, it totally seals it all in perfectly. And I didn't have any left over on my hands. So but I did a nice layer. You saw the Mod Podge with the glitter in it. I don't know if I necessarily needed to add that glitter. I could have used regular Mod Podge, but you know, extra glitter, and just sprinkled my glitter mixture all over the top, nice and thick, so it's like totally glittery and beautiful. And then I just shook it off, careful not to get my fingers in it. And this was such a fun project. I started off with 4, I think, and then I went back and cut 4 more. And this blue mixture is so pretty. I love it. And I don't decorate with blue during the Christmas season, but I don't know. I just think that I fell in love with this. I might have to incorporate some blue next year. If you're a fan of blue, I want to know how you decorate with it for the season. There's a house locally that has the blue icicle lights and they have them dangling off their house and off the trees, and it's just so pretty. I'll probably forget next year, but I do want to incorporate some blues. So we'll see what the trend is for next year. It always changes, so only time will tell. So I just repeat the same steps, and then like I mentioned earlier, decided to cut out more, and I mixed this pretty dark blue with some silver. It's so pretty. I think these are my all-time favorites out of all of them, even though, you know, I do love them, but this blue is just so mesmerizing. Of course, you could make these all different colors. I thought about making a red one, and when I went and looked in my stash, I didn't have any red glitter. And look at this. Isn't that so pretty? But I'm not buying anything right now. Like, I'm just using whatever I have. So this is what I had, and I did both sides, as I mentioned, and then let them dry for a few hours. And then this is me going over them and sealing them in with more Mod Podge. And if you don't like glitter, you're not going to want to skip this step because this really does seal everything in nicely. Just make sure you have a place to hang these to dry. And I just did the other side. And I think this helps with warping too. When they're all dry, you can bend them and straighten them out nicely. So in her video, she took some of these glittery Chanel stems and zigzagged them, as she said. So I zigzagged them up, down, and I used a total of 3 of these on each one of my stars and put a dollop of hot glue in the center. And you're going to want to place these in between all of your points. So essentially makes it look like your star has more points. And you really don't have to get all fancy with this. And also, I didn't glue all the way up. I just put the glue in the center because you'll see what I do later. You can totally, run a bead of glue all the way up the top if you want, but I just wanted to have a little more leeway with these. All right, I'm going to go a little fast on this so you can see what I'm doing and not just slowly watch me put all these together. But you're just repeating the same steps with your Chanel stems. She called these vintage stars, and I want to know, do you think they look vintage? But I put my own take on these. I made a lot of them differently. So she used like a silver garland that you put on a tree, and I didn't have any of that. So I used some of this. It's essentially like a little miniature garland that I used quite a bit this season. It's in the color gold. I have red and like an iridescent and a green. And so I just wrapped it into like a circle. And then I took these wired beads that I got at Goodwill and just kind of spun it around into like a circle and cut it off and then glued it right to the center. And I make all of these differently. I'm just going to take you through all the steps and just so you have a little idea of different things that you can do if you want to recreate these stars. And that finishes that one. I think it's really pretty. And I'm loving that blue, as I mentioned earlier. All right, as I mentioned earlier, I didn't glue all the way because I wanted to bend these. And she even mentioned how you could bend them, adds a little like a 3D look and add some movement to your stars. I really like that idea. And so I repeated the same steps with this blue one. I love this darker blue. I just think it's the prettiest thing ever. And again, you could totally switch out the color Chanel stems. I didn't really have a lot of these glittery, sparkly ones on hand, so I just used what I had. And you can bend them around and just have fun with it. And so I didn't have any of that silver garland, but I had this it's big and fluffy and iridescent. So I just pulled it off of the wire that it's on and just held it tight in my hand and then just put it down into the hot glue and held it there for a second. And then took one of these pearl half beads. It has an adhesive on the back, but I decided not to go that route. I added some hot glue and then set that right down in the center. And that's it for that one. All right, on to this one. I used these snowflakes on my tree for years and I decided to keep them in my stash. I'm glad I did because now I'm using them for something else. And so I glued that right into the center and then I grabbed more of that garland. I'm going to glue that right into the center. And just hold it there for a second. Then just kind of open it up. And then so I have so many beads in my stash. I got a huge bag at Goodwill and it was just unbelievable how many beads I have in colors and sizes. So as you can see, I cut total of 4 of them. and then glued them down into the center. Then I cut another one of those pearls and glued that right into the center of those. And that's it for that one. I think it's so pretty. I decided to trim some of those thicker ones down a little bit. There, I like how that looks. I really love the long, thin ones that you can see that are just kind of everywhere. I think those are so pretty. Okay, for this one, I'm going to use another one of those snowflakes, and then I'm taking more of that mini garland that I used. It's essentially like a ribbon, I guess. And so the zigzag thing that I did with the Chanel stems, I essentially did the same thing with this, but it just provides a bunch of loops. I don't know how many loops I made, but I made a bunch of them, cut that off, and gathered it up in my hand, kind of like I did with the iridescent garland, and then added a dollop of glue and held that right into that glue for a second. And then just kind of fluffed it up and separated the loops. Then I added another half bead to the center of this one. All right, for our next one, I decided to try this white Chanel stem just to see if I'd like it and, mix it up a little bit. And so I used that, and then I took this silver pencil ribbon, and that glue was still nice and warm, so I just made some loops. Essentially what I did with the last one, I'm just not gathering it all up in my hand. I'm just making the loops and then pressing it down into that glue. And then cut it off and just fluff them up a little bit like you would a bow. And then I added another half bead to the center of this one. And then I added another snowflake to this one, and this time I added a smaller one on. Added some more Chanel stems. I was just having so much fun making these, adding layers and just having fun. So I added more of this garland to the center of this one. This one I think is my favorite out of all of them, just because I kind of went crazy and let my imagination just do whatever came to mind. And so this little piece fell off and I wasn't going to add it. And then last minute I'm like, nope, you're going in there. I'm not wasting you. And added a half bead to the center of that one. Let me know what you think of this one. I love it. And then so for this one, I added another snowflake, some more of that garland, and another half bead. And then I think this is our last. I added the Chanel stems first, and then the snowflake, and then I decided to add a pop of red. I hadn't used red in any of them, and I just really wanted to add some red. Just made a bunch of those loops, some hot glue. These took me most of the day to make, but I had just so much fun. And of course, I had to wait for glue to dry a couple of times, but I really, really enjoyed making these. And these are something that I would definitely make again. I finished this one off with more of those wired beads, and that is it. I really love how these turned out. And I do think that they have a nice vintage charm to them. I've had so much fun with this series, and for those who have came and saw me each week. I so appreciate you being here. And if you're new, I really hope that you're enjoying this and will consider subscribing. I am working so hard towards my goal of 2,000 subscribers. I was hoping to have that by the new year, but you know what? I'm just so glad that you're here and that you're watching. So if you're enjoying this, let me know in the comments, would you make these? Have I inspired you in some way? And if you have plans for Christmas, let me know. I will be spending it with my husband and my daughter. My boys can't make it this year, unfortunately. But I'd love to know what you're doing for Christmas and what your goals are for the new year. I have some in mind. I haven't set them in stone yet, but I will be sure to let you guys know what my plans are for the new year. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. Until the next one, bye.